there are procedures, and we must follow them, Mr. Speaker, so that when we are tabling any report here, the report can actually be taken with the seriousness that it deserves, and that we might not be suspicious of anything, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that for me, it is two things that have come out. In the report, there is a whole section where we are talking about cults, the definition of cults, and all of that, Mr. Speaker. But I have not seen a recommendation where the committee then says that we are going to legislate around the illegality of cults, Mr. Speaker. Because the problem that we have is not to regulate religious institutions. The problem that we have, and I have said this before, is that we have no legal definition of what constitutes of a cult. And we have no legal definition of what constitutes of cultic behavior. So therefore, someone wants to wake up and say, and I've seen in part of the recommendations that we must, recommendation 502, where they say that we must regulate religious institutions. Mr. Speaker, I ask this, and I am a Christian, but I ask this, who is going to play God? Who will now come and say, I am God, and I'm going to regulate Seventh-day Adventists, and from today you must eat meat? Or who is going to come in and say, I am God, I'm going to regulate the Catholics, and you are not going to use the rosaries and whatnot? Mr. Speaker, it is completely insane that, and this I find very disappointing, that a whole committee can sit down and say, let us regulate religious institutions. Where do you start, Mr. Speaker? Who will now act God? Who will decide that the Catholics have actually...
Senator Mungtana, what is your point
Mr.
of order?
Speaker, I must be protected. Those are frivolous points of order.
No, it's not for you to determine, Senator Orwoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is obvious, Mr. Speaker, that the Honorable Senator who is addressing us has not read the report, has not understood what self-regulation is or regulation of religious organization is all about. Mr. Speaker, when you're talking about religious organization and regulation of them, you are not talking about rosaries. You're not talking about telling them to eat meat or not to eat meat. Mr. Speaker, and someone using words like insane, and you are the one who has not understood what we are talking about. Mr. Speaker, if you don't have content, please allow other senators who want to debate to debate.
That is contemptuous.
That is what we are talking about.
Senator Orwoba.
Yes.